The first time Riley Carter caught Ms. Harper Monroe's attention, it wasn't because she spoke, it was because she didn't. In a classroom where everyone fought to be seen, to raise their hand, to impress the woman with soft curls and sharper eyes, Riley just sat there, writing. Always writing. Pages filled with words she never said out loud. "Your essays," Ms. Monroe said one afternoon, tapping the corner of Riley's paper, "they don't sound like schoolwork. They sound like confessions." Riley's stomach tightened. She didn't know whether to feel exposed or understood. Ms. Monroe smiled then. Small, knowing, dangerous. That's not a bad thing. Sometimes the best writers are the ones who bleed onto the page. Riley didn't know it yet, but that moment would change everything. By November, the winter light had turned pale, and the hallways smelled like old coffee and cheap floor cleaner. Ms. Monroe had been teaching English for 7 years, long enough to know when a student had a crush. Usually it was harmless, fleeting admiration, nothing more. But Riley was different. Her essays were too raw, too intimate. She wrote about invisible cages and the terror of being almost seen. Her metaphors felt like fingerprints pressed into every sentence. Sometimes Harper found herself rereading them at night, alone in her apartment, the words echoing in the quiet like something meant for her. She told herself it was concern, that she was simply trying to understand a student who clearly needed guidance. But then she'd remember Riley's handwriting, tight, emotional, trembling, and feel something under her ribs shift. Riley had noticed the way Ms. Monroe looked at her. Not often, just long enough. It was the kind of look that made her heart do strange, painful flips, the same feeling she used to get when she read poetry about doomed lovers. One Friday after class, Ms. Monroe called her over. "Riley, the Literature Fair Committee approved my proposal this year. They want senior assistants. I thought of you." "Me?" "You're the best writer I have, and I think you see things differently. That's rare." Riley felt heat rise to her cheeks. "I'd love to." "Good." Harper hesitated, then added, "You remind me a little of myself at your age. Don't lose that edge, okay? It's what makes you interesting." Riley nodded, too dazed to answer. But that night, she couldn't stop replaying the way Ms. Monroe said, "you." Chloe, Riley's best friend, noticed the shift almost immediately. "You've been smiling at your phone a lot lately," Chloe teased during lunch, peeling an orange. "You got a secret boyfriend or something?" Riley rolled her eyes. "It's just school stuff. Ms. Monroe picked me for the literature fair." "Oh, Ms. Monroe," she said, dragging out the words. "The hot English teacher everyone's low-key obsessed with." "She's not. It's not like that." "Right. You're just blushing because she corrected your comma usage." "Shut up," Riley muttered, but she couldn't hide her smile. The fair prep became their shared secret. Afternoons spent in the English department, the sound of rain tapping against windows, the scent of old books and black coffee filling the room. Sometimes Harper would stand close behind Riley, reading over her shoulder, her breath warm against her neck. "You're phrasing here," Harper whispered once. "It's beautiful, but you're holding back. Don't. The truth is always the hardest line to write." Riley swallowed hard, every nerve on fire. And what if the truth ruins everything? Harper looked at her then. Really looked. Then it was probably worth writing. The words hung between them, electric and dangerous. That night, Harper couldn't sleep. She sat on her couch, the city outside her window flickering like a restless heartbeat. She opened Riley's latest essay, The Anatomy of Silence, and began to read. Sometimes silence isn't peace. Sometimes it's the sound of everything you're too afraid to say. Sometimes it's the only language two people can speak without getting caught. Harper closed her laptop, her pulse racing. It was just writing, she told herself, just a clever metaphor. But when she looked at the clock, 2:14 a.m., and realized she was still thinking about the curve of Riley's letters and the ache behind her words, she knew it wasn't just that. It was something else. Something she shouldn't feel. By December, the rumors began. Quiet ones. "Ms. Monroe spends a lot of time with that Carter girl," someone whispered in the teacher's lounge. "They're probably just doing extra work." Sure, that's what they all say before the board gets involved. Harper heard them once, laughter following her down the hallway like static. And later that night, as she packed her papers, she found something tucked inside Riley's latest submission. A folded note written in Riley's handwriting. It said only one thing. "You said the truth is worth writing, so here it is. I think I'm in love with you." Harper froze, heart pounding. The world tilted slightly. Somewhere outside, the janitor's radio hummed a soft, old song. Inside, Harper's fingers trembled. She wanted to crumple the note, to pretend it didn't exist. But instead, she slid it into her desk drawer. And for the first time since she'd started teaching, she didn't know what the right thing to do was.
It started with silence, the kind that hums between people who have crossed a line but pretend they haven't. Riley stopped staying after class. She sat 2 seats away now instead of up front. She answered questions without looking up. And Harper Monroe, for all her training in restraint, found herself watching anyway. Every time Riley tucked her hair behind her ear, every time she laughed too softly, Harper's chest tightened with something she couldn't name. She told herself it was guilt. It wasn't. The note was still in her desk drawer. She hadn't thrown it away, hadn't replied, hadn't done anything except keep it. She told herself it was evidence, in case anything ever came up, but she knew that was a lie. Sometimes late at night, she'd take it out, read the words again, and wonder what would have happened if she'd been younger, less careful, more reckless. In January, the school hallways were gray with winter light. Everyone seemed tired, half asleep. Riley stayed after class one day, the first time in weeks. "I didn't mean to make things weird," she said softly, eyes on the floor. I write things I shouldn't sometimes." Harper's throat went dry. "You don't have to apologize for writing. It wasn't just writing, and you know that." For a moment, neither spoke. Then Harper exhaled slowly. "Riley, you're 17. You don't know what this is." "I do," she whispered. "It's not about age, it's about seeing someone." Harper looked away, her reflection caught in the window, 2 silhouettes blurred by frost. "You think you see me, but you're seeing who you want me to be, and that's dangerous." Riley nodded once, biting her lip. "Maybe, but that doesn't make it untrue." And then she left. No tears, no dramatics, just quiet footsteps fading down the hall. That night, Harper dreamt of the classroom, empty, desks bathed in cold moonlight. Riley was sitting in the back, writing again. When Harper walked closer, she saw that the pages were blank, only the impression of words pressed deep into the paper. And when Riley looked up, she said, "You told me to write the truth." Harper woke up shaking. At school the next day, something new waited for her. A printed note folded neatly on her desk in the teacher's lounge. No name, just one line. "Your favorite student looks a lot like your past." Her stomach dropped. For a moment, the air left the room. She tore the note in half, then into smaller pieces, until all that was left was confetti and her trembling hands. But the words wouldn't leave her mind. Her past. 15 years ago, Harper had been 17 too, and she had a teacher, Ms. Rowan, who made her feel like she was someone worth listening to. Back then, it hadn't gone anywhere, but she remembered the ache, the confusion, the way she mistook being seen for being loved. That memory had shaped her entire career, the reason she kept her distance, the reason she never let her guard down. And yet here she was, repeating history. By February, whispers started. Ms. Monroe's been spending a lot of time with Riley Carter, one teacher murmured. She's probably just helping with college essays. Still, people are talking. Even students noticed. Yo, Riley, what's up with you and Miss Monroe? A boy in the class snickered one afternoon. Nothing, Riley snapped, her cheeks flushing. Yeah, sure, he said, smirking. When Riley turned around, Harper caught her eye, and in that half second of shared silence, the entire room disappeared. After class, Harper found Riley sitting alone under the staircase. You can't react like that, Harper said quietly. Riley looked up, her eyes red. They're making things up. I know, but the more you respond, the worse it gets. I can't pretend nothing is happening. You have to. Riley stood, face trembling with emotion. Why? Because you're scared someone might find out that you care about me? Harper froze. Then, barely above a whisper, yes, because they'll ruin us both if they do. For a long moment, neither moved. Then Riley said softly, I don't care if they ruin me. And Harper whispered, I do. That evening, Harper sat in her car long after the parking lot emptied. The radio was off. Her hands gripped the steering wheel until her knuckles whitened. She thought she was strong enough to manage this, to draw the line and keep it professional. But it was too late. Riley wasn't just a student anymore. She had become a mirror, a reminder of everything Harper had buried, the longing, the loneliness, the quiet ache of wanting something you know you can't have. At home, Harper tried to distract herself with lesson plans, but when she opened her laptop, a new email notification appeared. Subject: The truth you asked for. Sender: r.carter@student.mail. Her pulse spiked. She hesitated, then clicked. You once told me that the best writing is the truth you're afraid to say out loud. So here's mine. I'm not trying to make you feel guilty. I'm just trying to make you feel something at all. Harper stared at the screen until her eyes blurred. Then she closed the laptop hard and whispered to the empty room, Riley, what are you doing to me? The next morning, Riley didn't come to class. Neither did the day off. Harper tried to focus, but every empty chair felt heavier. On the third day, Chloe came up to her desk. Miss Monroe, Riley's been weird lately, not talking to anyone. She skipped lunch too. Is she okay? Harper asked, trying to sound casual. Chloe hesitated. I don't know, but she's writing again, like a lot. You should probably see it. That evening, Harper found Riley in the library, alone. Riley, she said quietly. Riley didn't look up. You shouldn't be here. Neither should you, Harper said softly. But we are. For a moment, the only sound was the faint hum of the overhead lights. Why did you stop coming to class? Riley's pen stopped moving. Because every time I see you, I forget who I'm supposed to be. Harper's breath caught. Riley! Don't, Riley said, standing now, eyes glistening. If you tell me this isn't real, I'll believe you. I'll walk away. But if you don't, she took a step closer, then I'll never be able to. Harper's heart hammered in her chest. For a split second, the entire world narrowed to that dim corner of the library. 2 hearts, 1 line, and a truth neither was ready to face. Then, quietly, Harper said, Go home, Riley. And when Riley left, this time for good, Harper sat down, her hands shaking, as if she had just survived a car crash no one saw.
Spring arrived too early that year. The trees outside Northcrest High bloomed in pale pinks and whites, but inside, everything felt gray. Harper Monroe walked through the hallway like a ghost. Teachers still smiled, students still talked, but whispers trailed behind her like shadows. She didn't need to hear the words to know what they were saying. Miss Monroe and that senior girl. Someone saw them in the library. It's always the quiet ones. Riley hadn't come back to class for a week. At first, Harper thought it was her fault. Then she convinced herself it wasn't. Then she stopped trying to convince herself at all. Every night, she checked her inbox, half terrified, half desperate, for another email. Nothing. Until one Thursday morning. Subject: you said it was dangerous. Message: maybe danger is the only way I know how to feel alive. Harper read it 3 times. Then she deleted it. Then she restored it from trash. And when she realized her hands were shaking, she pressed them flat against the desk, whispering, "Get it together." The principal called her into his office later that week. "Harper, this is just a formality," he said. "We've had some chatter. I'm sure it's nonsense, but we need to be cautious." "Chatter," she repeated, her voice steady, even though her stomach dropped. "About one of your students, Riley Carter." He leaned forward, lowering his voice. "You haven't been meeting privately, have you?" "No," Harper said too quickly. He nodded slowly. "Good. Just keep it professional. You're one of our best teachers. I'd hate to see your name tangled in something unnecessary." When she left his office, her pulse was still thudding in her ears. Someone had talked. Someone had seen. That evening, Harper found Riley waiting in her car. It was raining, the kind that softened everything into silhouettes. Riley's hood was up, her face pale, her eyes unreadable. Harper froze. "What are you doing here? You didn't answer my email. You can't be here." "I didn't know where else to go." Harper looked around. The parking lot was mostly empty, and sighed, unlocking the passenger door. "Get in." Riley slipped inside, her damp hair sticking to her cheek. They sat in silence, the sound of rain tapping against the windshield. Finally, Harper said, "There are rumors." Riley turned to her, eyes wide. "About us?" "There is no us, Riley." The words came out harsher than she meant. Riley flinched. "Don't say that. You're a student. I'm your teacher. That's all this ever was. That's not true." Harper gripped the steering wheel. "It has to be." The air between them felt electric, heavy. Riley's voice dropped to a whisper. "Do you ever stop pretending?" Harper glanced at her, and for a moment she didn't see a student. She saw someone older, wounded, alive. Someone who knew her in a way no one else did. And that scared her more than anything. "I'm not pretending," Harper said. Riley leaned closer, eyes glistening. "Then tell me you don't think about me." Harper jaw tightened. "Riley, tell me." Her breath trembled. "I can't." That was it. The slip, the crack, the confession. And in that breathless space, Riley's hand reached for hers. Harper didn't move away. It was only a second, skin brushing skin, warmth against rain-chilled fingers. But it was enough to shatter the careful lie they'd built. The next day, Riley didn't come to school again. Instead, Tessa, Riley's best friend, stormed into Harper's classroom at lunch. "What did you do?" she demanded. "Excuse me?" "She's not okay. She told me everything." "Everything what?" "That she's in love with you, that you made her believe it meant something. I didn't—" But Tessa cut her off. "You think she's some little girl playing make-believe? She's falling apart. You should have known better." And then Tessa was gone, slamming the door so hard the posters on the wall fluttered. Harper sank into her chair, her pulse hammering in her ears. Everything was unraveling. That night, Harper drove to the Overlook, a quiet cliffside outside town where the city lights glimmered below. Riley was already there, sitting on the hood of her car. "I knew you'd come," she said softly. Harper stopped a few feet away. "Tessa came to me." "I know. She said you told her everything." Riley looked down at her hands. "I didn't mean to. It just slipped." Harper swallowed hard. "You can't keep doing this. You're going to destroy both of us." Riley looked up, eyes shimmering with tears. "Then why did you come?" Harper hesitated. "Because I was afraid you'd do something stupid." Riley laughed, small, broken. "Like falling in love with my teacher? Like ruining your future?" Riley's expression hardened. "Maybe my future isn't worth anything if I have to lie to live it." Harper took a step forward. "You don't understand. This will follow you forever." "Then make it worth it," Riley said. And before Harper could react, Riley kissed her. It wasn't romantic. It wasn't planned. It was desperate, a scream without sound. Harper froze. The rain, the cold, the heartbeat between them, it all blurred into a moment that didn't belong anywhere. When Riley pulled back, her voice broke. "You felt it too." Harper whispered, "Yes, but that doesn't make it right." Later that night, Harper sat alone in her apartment, drenched and shaking. Her reflection stared back at her from the darkened window. Someone she didn't recognize anymore. She had crossed a line, even if no one else had seen it. And she knew it was only a matter of time before the world did. Her phone buzzed. A new message. From unknown number. "They say teachers should protect their students, but who protects them from teachers like you?" Harper's hands went cold. She dropped the phone, the screen still glowing, as outside the storm broke open. The next morning, Harper's classroom felt different, like someone had turned down the air. Every student's whisper felt louder. Every glance lasted too long. She taught through it anyway. That was what she did best. Pretend. By third period, she'd almost convinced herself things were fine, until the door opened. The principal stepped in, his expression carefully blank. "Miss Monroe," he said softly, "I need a word." Her stomach dropped. They sat across from each other in the small office that suddenly felt too small. The blinds were half closed, light cut across the room in narrow, judgmental lines. "We received a complaint," he began, anonymous but detailed. Harper's pulse pounded in her ears. "About what?" "About you and one of your students, Riley Carter." He didn't look angry, just tired, disappointed. That made it worse. "I've seen the message," he said, sliding a folded note across the desk. She didn't touch it. It was a printout of the text message from the night before, the one she hadn't shown anyone. Her throat went dry. "Where did you get this?" "It was sent to the school board this morning." Harper leaned back, breath shallow. "It's not true." He nodded slowly, as if the words were meant for the record, not for belief.
I'm putting you on temporary leave while we investigate. You understand?" "Please," Harper whispered. "You know me. I would never." But his expression didn't change. He just sighed, folded his hands, and said, "Go home, Harper." The drive back felt endless. Her apartment was still as she'd left it. Papers on the desk, mug half full, raincoat hanging by the door. She sat down on the couch and finally allowed herself to break. For the first time, she didn't know whether she was crying out of guilt, grief, or relief that it was over. Then the phone buzzed. "Riley, they suspended you, didn't they?" "Harper, how do you know that?" "Riley, Tessa told me. Everyone knows. I'm sorry." "Harper, please don't reach out anymore. It'll only make things worse." "Riley, it already is." Harper set the phone face down and covered her mouth, forcing herself not to scream. At school, Riley walked through the same hallways that now buzzed with gossip. Some students looked at her with curiosity, others with disgust. Tessa wouldn't talk to her. When she passed the empty classroom, Harper's classroom, she stopped. The blinds were closed, the chair behind the desk empty. It felt like looking at the ruins of something she'd imagined into existence. That night, Riley showed up at Harper's apartment again. Her eyes were red, her hair pulled back, rain glistening on her jacket. Harper didn't open the door at first. Then she heard the voice, small, trembling. "Please, I just need to talk." Harper unlocked the door. Riley stepped inside, shivering, her face pale. "You believe me, right?" Harper nodded slowly. "I know." "Then who?" "It doesn't matter." "Yes, it does," Riley snapped. "They're making it sound like you did something terrible, like I'm some kind of victim." Her voice cracked. "I'm not." Harper took a step closer. "You are, Riley. You just don't see it yet." "No," Riley whispered. "You're the one who's broken, not me." The silence that followed was unbearable. Finally, Harper said quietly, "Then why are you here?" Riley's shoulders sagged. "Because you're the only person who ever really saw me. And that's exactly why I can't see you anymore," Harper said, tears welling. They stood there, both crying, both pretending it didn't mean goodbye. Harper reached for Riley's wrist, not to hold her, but to let her go. "Promise me you'll stop coming here." Riley looked away. "You think that's what's best for me?" "I know it is." Riley nodded, biting her lip hard enough to draw blood. Then she whispered, "I wish you'd never noticed me." And she was gone. Days blurred into weeks. The investigation moved quietly, too quietly. Parents called for her resignation, others defended her. The district issued statements about integrity and safety in mentorship. Harper stayed inside most days, grading old papers she didn't need to grade, trying to feel like a teacher again. Sometimes she'd catch herself staring at the essays Riley had written, full of raw, aching metaphors about mirrors and masks. One line haunted her. "Love is just guilt with prettier clothes." One afternoon, there was a knock at her door. She opened it, to find Tessa standing there, holding an envelope. "I shouldn't be here," Tessa said, "but she asked me to give you this." Harper hesitated, then took it. "Is she okay?" Tessa nodded. "She's different now. Quieter. Like she's finally learning how to breathe again." When Tessa left, Harper sat down and unfolded the letter. "You once told me stories are mirrors, that they show us what we can't say out loud. I think ours was one too. Maybe not a love story, maybe something else, something harder, truer. You said I'd understand when I got older. I think I do now. We weren't wrong, just out of time." Harper pressed the letter to her chest, her eyes burning. It didn't make anything right, but it made it real. The next morning she went for a walk, her first in months. The sun was pale, the city waking up slow. She passed the school from across the street. Through the open window of a classroom, she heard a student reading aloud, a voice young, alive, full of promise. She smiled sadly. There were some lines you couldn't uncross, but there were also some that led you back to yourself, just in a different shape. As she walked away, the wind carried a single word from somewhere behind her. Miss Monroe. She didn't turn around. She just kept walking, towards the sound of her own life starting again.